And we are back. Even though it's in a day later, again, I'm trying to get as many previews out, post matches out. And I made this mistake on the comments. I always say preview. I always get the names of the team and everything wrong. Anyway, another 2-0 win. I mean, pretty much business as usual at this point. But what did you make of the game?
For me, and I said this on Twitter, and I got a fair bit of slack for it, but I stand by it. It amazed me the fact of how little quality difference there was between third place Preston and 18th place Stoke. They felt like very similar games where we controlled both of them, didn't really have to come out of first gear. And I felt like if we needed to, we could have moved the game much quicker, but we were always in control and neither team really laid a glove on us.
Yeah, I get what you mean. We created probably similar opportunities in both games as well. One was 2-0, one was 3-0. In terms of, again, that's why you probably the title's got another bus destroyed because, as you're probably saying, 2 games in a week, both at home. And well, we'll get into some of the starting because what's really impressed me, especially with there's so many things that impressed me. But we started off again. We made some substitutions from the previous game, so we started off in the last game with a much stronger lineup with Ndidi in the team. Castaday comes into the team. For Tawu, did he start the last game?
Yeah, I think so because Casey McAteer is injured, isn't he? So
yeah. Oh, I'll put him in twice. It was at Gun. Damn it! I thought I got something wrong. On the fly. Was it Eunice? Because I've realised he's put Eunice in his name, and I'm not sure what you're supposed to call him. KH takes it. Ricardo wings Ricardo as kind of as a normal pairing. Then the back three is something I want to touch on before we get into some of the individuals. When I saw that, I was thinking, right, how are we going to do this? And Chowdhury was in a back three with Suter. I was not baffled by this. I was almost going, that position could be quite a few people, but I didn't expect Chowdhury to start in the back line.
It's one of those. It's like he's played there a couple of times in cup matches and sort of like finishing off a game, but to start a game there, I think it's a different thing. And he did very well. I thought he defensively was very solid and then looked calm and composed on the ball. So like the fact that we've got these options is just brilliant, isn't it? Like comparing the squad depth now to where we were, it's night and day. And I know Chowdhury, and I know you're probably going to disagree with me here. I don't think he's a Premier League quality player, but at this level, as a Championship quality player, he's such good squad depth.
I mean, he's squad depth, but he can also play in so many different roles as well. I mean, we've seen him play right in the games we've seen. We've played him play midfield in Harry Winks' role. We've also seen him say right back in the Ricardo role. Then he's playing left back in this game. I mean, considering he's right-footed, I think that's a real testament to himself. And again, I know I think that he's can be Premier League quality, but in this team, I think he would have been one of the people that I was concerned about at the beginning of the season. Going, is he going to get the minutes if Winks comes into the team? But he's just been fantastic.
He has, and he's one of those that at the moment, as you said, versatility, and it's like it's brilliant to have your strongest 11, but then to supplement it with players that are versatile, but not just he's there, but he's sort of sticking out like a sore thumb. He's coming in and he's filling the role and filling whichever role he's playing very well.
Yep, exactly. It's a good one. Sean says I want to see the possession match statistics. They are coming, so just bear with me one moment. But yeah, I think in terms of that as well, another defender that you mentioned, that we mentioned as well, Suter coming into the game. I mean, his first start, we've not seen him since the Liverpool game. His first start in the Cup against his old side as well. I didn't think he really put a foot wrong either, considering he's not had very many minutes in his team. I think he did fantastically well as well.
Yeah, Harry Suter's one of those that we've heard for the longest time that he won't fit the system X, Y, and Z. And he's a player that I like. I see so many similarities in him and Maguire. Not just the fact that they both got massive heads, but like actually
the way called Harry.
Yeah, and they play Harry, and both came from Championship teams, didn't they? Oh no, Maguire, Hull were Premier League at the time, but
they were relegated. So
yeah, but there's like the way they play is so many similarities, and like I think there's a lot of similarities in them, and he's one that I just hope it's not a one-off performance and then we don't see him again, because I think there is a real bit of quality there, and as you say, he didn't put a foot wrong. He was absolutely brilliant, and considering how little he's played, deserves a huge amount of credit.
Yeah, it really does. And I think it just shows you that we've seen teams before. We've seen Brendan Rodgers. He has his favourites, and he'll pick these favourites game in, game out. Yuri Tillemans was a good example. Wilfred Ndidi, different Wilfred Ndidi in this game, in this season so far. But again, he would play Maddison. He'd always play, which is kind of understandable. He'd always give these players an opportunity, and he'd always just try and play them out rather than giving players an opportunity that are on the bench. Here, I think in the last, we'll probably do another recap later on, but going from each game, he's always tinkered with it, but it doesn't feel like he's tinkered at the same time.
No, the personnel changes, but the system doesn't, which I really like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's for me was in this early in the season. I keep mentioning. I mentioned on the last when we talked about the Preston game. Pep and these kind of Pep took a year to get this sorted, to get a real. I remember they were battered for Lookman scored that 4-1 against Everton. I remember one of the games. They looked not great at times, but it took them a year. We managed to do it in a few months, and again, we can still see even in this game, we're really out of third gear at points.
I think I keep trying to avoid comparing us to Man City because it's very different circumstances. Like their Premier League, we're Championship. They've got every resource under the sun. We don't. I mean, our resources are better than every other Championship club probably, but it's like I don't want to sort of compare pears with apples, so to speak. But like the fundamental ideas are so similar of what Enzo is trying to do when you do compare it there. But I think, and I said this on my match reaction outside the ground, it's very telling of how opposition fans are talking about Leicester now compared to when the league started. Because when the league started, it's a difficult league to get out of.
It's the hardest championship.
Yeah, it's the hardest championship. You've lost a lot of players. Are these new signings going to click? You've got a manager who's only failed in his previous jobs. Now it's, oh, well, you should be getting out of the league with the squad you've got. Look how much money you've spent. The narrative's changed very quickly.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm with you. And I was one of the people that say the championship's hard because I remembering it back when we were in it last time before the Pearson era, just thinking we were an average kind of Premier League championship team surviving relegation, and it was hard. And it's hard to compare the two eras, but my brain, because we were so far gone, I was expecting us to revert to what we were good at before the King Power era.
There was the worry that it could have gone very badly wrong. And I think as much as we were frustrated last year with a lot of decisions were made, we've got to give credit this year, like for the way that, yes, last year, and I will stand by this, was one of the most avoidable relegations of the Premier League era. But like, there's two ways that could have gone. You could have sat there, felt sorry for yourself, and say, "Oh, but this didn't go our way. Oh, I've made mistakes here, there, everywhere." Or actually take some responsibility for it and try and sort of put right the wrongs. And it's like, I think Top, Enzo, Martin Glover all deserve huge amount of credit because they've gone like for a philosophy that's new to the club in terms of the way that we're playing on the pitch, but also gone back to an old philosophy in the transfer market of buying these young, hungry players that are going to come in and see Leicester as a place that they want to come and play football, want to come and improve. And yeah, in a few years, some of these may move on, and hopefully, if they do, it's for big money. But they're looking at Leicester again as an attractive proposition to come and play for, compared to last season, where you had players like Stanier, Tielemans, Maddison, Barnes, all with one foot out the door before the season had even started.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And it was, again, the place that it was where we were beforehand. Now we've changed we've gone on to another level.
It's night and day, isn't it? It's night and day. Like I was talking to one of the people who stand behind me at the ground, and he was saying the feeling around the club is like, yes, like on paper we're in a worse position because we're in the Championship and we've been relegated, but there's a general feel of optimism and a general feel of like, yes, like relegation, like it shouldn't have happened and it was avoidable if it was acted done quickly. But now we have gone down. I think we're doing everything that's required to get back up, and not just get back up, but when we do go back up, hopefully be stable again.
Yeah, exactly. And go back to it's the same but different. I want to see that in terms of the model that we're going towards is that we're probably going to sell an asset, reinvest that money in because that's what the club wants, and they've mentioned that. I think publicly they've said that as well now.
Yeah.
But we've got a squad as well that will bounce back from it as well. That will not just in terms of we've got an asset. So, for example, Harry Maguire was kind of one of the stars in that team. There's a few stars there, but Enzo's shown even at this level you can be replaced by another player.
Yeah, and I think something that's very big to say is the fact that like we with our transfer model, I think that's part of what got us in the situation that we were in the first place. Like positively and negatively. When it was going well, our transfers were brilliant. When it started to go a bit pear-shaped, it like the transfers in that period were poor as well. And the one thing that I think we've really got right so far is we haven't just brought players for the sake of filling up squad numbers. Every player that you see has got a purpose and a position that they can play. It's like when we signed Ryan Bertrand, it was we're getting Ryan Bertrand because you can't really get because Robin Gosens isn't available anymore. We need a left back. Not really who we want, but he feels
He'll do until JJ's ready.
Yeah, he'll fill a gap. Now it feels every player that we're signing, it's like I can see why we're signing him and I can see the logic behind it. It's like Callum Doyle, you could understand left back, centre back, needed that role filling. We needed an experienced centre half. Connor Cody comes in, he can play in a back three, he can play as in a back four. He's that natural leader, but we're missing. Hermanson, we need a goalkeeper that is comfortable with his feet, and he's exactly that. And he's not just comfortable with his feet, by the way. He's also a very good goalkeeper in terms of the traditional side of it. But then you look Mavididi, Fatawu, Atgun, we needed wingers. So it's like every signing we're making, you sort of look at it and you go, yeah, I get that. I understand why that one's. I don't know. It's like before we were making signings and it's like not quite too sure why we've done that one.
There was, I think some of them on paper made sense, but in reality, I think it was down to the coaching and we didn't get the best out of them. Vestergaard is, again, lovely segue back to it, is a perfect example of that. Then Rob Tanner's come out when we've interviewed him. I think he's been on the show as well before, and he said he was a terrible buy. And I think we all agreed at that point it didn't work. Vestergaard didn't work. Now in this game and over the last few games, he's looked one of our best players, and it's not, again, as you mentioned, night and day compared to last season.
I think with Vestergaard, this system suits him 10 times more than where we were before. But also, I do think you've got to caveat it with like he's playing now up against what championship strikers compared to Erling Haaland's and your Darwin Núñez's of this world. So I do think the level helps him, but I also think the system massively. He's being played to his strengths. Like funny thought, that isn't it? Playing to your players' strengths.
Yeah, and imagine. I'm not going to go there. I think and I'll end up going on your channel and ranting for half an hour because it's a bit boring. But coming in again, Vestergaard looked fantastic, and at times in the first half, I was going to get up some of the stats around that because I know people mentioned about possession stats. Specifically on the first half, I was looking. We had 77% possession. I thought personally we had more anecdotally, but they had 0.0 expected goals. We had 0.2. I'm not a massive fan of XG, but they created absolutely nothing from that game.
What's quite funny? On the TVs that they have inside the ground, before the Iheanacho goal, it literally about 2 minutes before there was a point where it said 90% possession.
Yeah, I think Rob Tanner tweeted out something similar.
How ridiculous is that? And it's like it wasn't the quickest sort of most stretching possession in the world, but we were pinning them back, and it felt almost. And I know people will disagree with me on this, and I'm not just saying this because we scored. If you want to check my vlog. I said it at the time. It felt like it was possession for the sake of like a purpose, not just keeping the ball for the sake of keeping the ball. we were probing, we were trying to stretch for defence and looking for that final through pass. Because when a team comes and sets up in the way Stoke did, it's not always going to be an instant quick breakthrough. Like we got a very for the way Stoke set up as well. The fact we got a goal within the first 25 minutes, I think, is brilliant because the longer those go on, it can get a little bit nervy. But Ricardo Pereira threading the ball through to Iheanacho. What a finish, by the way, from the angle it is. James is terrified. If you don't know, I've got a bet with James. 20 goals this season for Iheanacho. Do you think Kelechi gets 20 goals this season?
He's a quarter of the way there, and we're not even a quarter way through the season.
Yeah, James is terrified.
But I mean, it's a good. The fact that we're having these conversations, A, is great in the first place, and B, it's not a million miles off. I think the next game we play up to 12, and I think we're then sort of at a quarter point there. So 13 games, you're pretty much there as well.
Yes. And it's mad that he's not even our top scorer, that we're sort of having these conversations. But no, for how many years was it? If Vardy didn't score, we weren't scoring. But now you've got like Dewsbury Hall up there, Vardy, I think McAteer as well. As you can see there, like our goals are spread out across the team.
And it shows the system is working, as you were mentioning. I love talking positively about my team. I hated last year, but this was a great example of Casey McAteer's come in, smashed it. And you know when like Barnes was out last season, or some people were out, can't wait for him to come back. And I mean this in the nicest way possible. Actually, that's a really good point by Sean, actually, as well. I'm all over the place. 15 to 20, AFCON might change that. I mean, it's a good point. But they have obviously rotation in Osimhen and other players in the striker position. But it's a good point. Ethan said we can get 20 goals. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, going back to this, the fact that we've got 4 people on 5 goals each show, A, the system is working, and B, beforehand, we'd scream out and go, Casey McAteer, when he comes back, we'll be on another level. And I mean this in the nicest way. We're not even mentioning that.
No, and that's credit to other players stepping up as well, because McAteer stepped up massively this season. Because, when we did our season preview, we both talked about Will Alves, Sammy Braybrook, Ben Nelson as our sort of exciting young players. I love Casey McAteer, and I think he's been brilliant, but neither of us mentioned him before the season started.
As a fringe player, maybe. And even then, I thought he wasn't going to play as a winger. I thought he would play as a number 8. I thought he'd play alongside Kieran Dewsbury Hall, because I didn't think Ndidi was going to come on to the level that he did.
No, it's like I said, the narratives are so different now compared to when the season started.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. And just coming back to, again, a little bit about the game, something I want to mention as well. Before when we had possession, we'd always, I think, especially under Rodgers, I know I keep going back to him, we were always just at the halfway line and it would pass forwards, backwards. If you notice in this game, especially in the first half, we were camped almost in there, like halfway in their area, almost in their final third. Every player was there, barring Hermansen.
Well, the thing is, Hermansen was like well into sort of outside our box, a good 10, 15 yards outside our box. But then, like Vestergaard, who was our furthest man back at most periods, he was good 10 yards into their half, 15 yards into their half. And it's like, we were absolutely pinning them back, and Stoke were just having to, every time Stoke got the ball, it wasn't looking to create anything with it. It was just clear your lines. But they just kept doing that, and it was like reset and just reset your defensive shape. And it was just wave after wave of attack, which is why I said, but I didn't think it was if we scored the winner, it was, a goal. It was when it was going to come, because you cannot defend for 90 minutes and offer absolutely nothing on the counter.
No, and I think the fact that they had so many injuries as well, they tried a tactic, it didn't work. It will work other times against other teams, but again, just with how formidable we are at the moment, it wasn't going to work. And in the second half, again, I put some of the substitutions in, because again, we made all 5 substitutions. Put in 31 transfer created, which is again ridiculous amount as well. And Adol's put great, gets the best out of the players. He is. And the thing is, they didn't need a lot. They genuinely didn't need a lot. Even the ones that were here, people like re-envisioning certain players, but it doesn't make that much of a difference. A couple of other things going into the second half. Sorry, Andy, you can say something.
I was going to say, but it's like take away the tactics and take away sort of the style of football. It's just the way that they're being talked about. Instead of every press conference saying, "Oh, this player's not really at the level," and throwing under the bus, actually bigging up the players and saying like they can go on to be top players, and you can see the talent and the potential there. And it's like you take away sort of the players, you can just talk about the club. The way that Brendan Rodgers talked about Leicester compared to what Enzo Maresca is, it's just mentality is so important in football, and it's like if the mentality is wrong from the outset, then the results will be wrong.
Yeah.
But when the mentality is right, you might lose games of football, but you're going to go out and at least go out fighting. And like that, I think that's for me the biggest difference. It's like, yes, the style of football is absolutely fantastic. I love it. But the biggest difference is the mindset and mentality.
Yeah, and that's the first thing he mentioned in his first interview. If you remember, I was on the plane actually coming back from holiday, and the first thing I remember listening to him saying is, "We need to change the fitness, we need to change the mentality," and that's exactly what we've done. I mean, up here looking at Preston on 20th, us on again. Somebody was mentioning it before in the chat as well. 10 points off third. I tweeted that out early from Beyond the 90 account as well. But around the fact that Preston North End we played them third, we beat them 3-0, and that's created a point because there was three of us that were running away with it. Then all of a sudden, Preston played Ipswich and Leicester, bang, they're out of the race. Leicester and Ipswich kind of in the league of their own at the moment.
Yeah, and Sunderland lost 4-1, didn't they, to Borough? And like there's a bit of a gap forming there, and we're early days. And as I said yesterday, you don't want to be sitting here saying we've won the league 11 games in, but we're building such a good start. It's the best ever start of a championship season. Like the foundations that are being built for success this season are brilliant, and I don't think we could have asked for a better start. And as I say, results are brilliant. But it's the feeling as well around the club is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, no, totally agree. And it's just something that it just feels better. The ground is getting a bit better as well. I think from what I've heard, I think you've heard something similar. Enzo still wants the ground to be better and the atmosphere to be better in the ground as well. That's only going to be there because of winning games. And I've forgot I had my notes, but I was going to try and go and get them, but I didn't have it. But just coming into a couple of other bits that I was going to mention. The second half, we played. I think it helped that Stoke came out and played more like better football, because that was their plan to get for 60 minutes and then try and hit it on the counter. But when they did, we just kind of absorbed it quite easily.
I didn't think they really did come out much more in the second half. Like, yeah, they kept the ball a little bit in there, but when the ball that they did have was sort of in between their two centre backs or just like occasional long balls, hoping to. It wasn't directed counter attacks. It was hit and hopes. The only time I felt any threat from them was directly from kickoff. You know, when they had that moment where they probably should have scored. Apart from that, I've never felt more comfortable in the game.
I get what you mean. Especially there was a period of where they started to come in. I think about like 60 plus minutes, where they started to come into a game. But again, it was very little compared to they offered absolutely nothing first half. Then it's good. The point you mentioned, I think that's one area that I have a slight concern, which has been ironed out. Sometimes, especially early on, and it's not as much recently, we haven't been starting the games in the second half quickly enough. I think this was an example again where, lads, if there's another time another team punches for that, and we can get away with this in the Championship, if we come back to the Prem, we can't get away with them.
No, and something that I would say is I watched the Coventry game this morning. Like, watch the Coventry game and then watch the Stoke game. It's like the progression is absolutely massive. So it's one of those people. There's people will still moan and say it's the same as it was last season. It's absolutely not, and it's one of those that like the difference in between now and the start of the season is huge, and we're just going to keep improving, and these players are going to keep developing in the system, and hopefully keep improving under Enzo Maresca.
Yeah, and it's a positive, just like last season, the negativity compounded. I think it's the same thing. I don't know where Ant's gone. I'll bring him back when he comes back. The same thing. Oh, he's back. It's the same problem as well with what we had last season, the opposite way. When the problems got worse, so I don't know how many times you had it, Ant. How many previews I did where you're good enough to stay up. You're good enough to stay up, and every single time, and I was like, I'm with you, but and then we played them, and then they go, you boys are in trouble. And it was the same conversation I must have had at least half a dozen times easily.
It was, you know, when we played Chelsea at home and Lewis before the game was going, you'll be absolutely fine. The quality of you've got in your team is absolutely fine. Talk to him after the game and he goes, you lot are in serious trouble. And it's like, yes, mate. And it's like, but everyone looked at our team last year, Harvey Barnes, James Maddison, like we know the players that we had last year. But ultimately, it's like sitting here honestly, Neil, can you moan at the fact we got relegated last year of what we saw on the pitch?
No, it was inevitable. The thing is, I did the I think you knew I did the last game of the season with Don Robbie. So myself and a Leeds fan, and thank God there wasn't an Everton fan there. As in, if there was an Everton fan and he was respectful, fine. But if they got I would have been pissed off. I was pissed off as it is getting relegated. The most I only got nervous when we scored. So I'm like, oh my God, we might actually be safe. And then I got nervous. I'd accepted relegation from the previous game, and it was just it was a continuous thing that just happened throughout. To be honest, where we didn't really get above, we didn't even get into the top. We just kind of we stayed at the bottom, and then we just kind of floated. And again, Brendan Rodgers is the reason why I hate him so much.
It's one of those because when we got relegated, I sort of, you know, that Bournemouth game, for me, from there, I was just at the point, it's like, yeah, we're done. And I said this many times. It's like, you know, when we won the league, there was that Man City game where I was like, yeah, we can do this. And like, I thought we will go on and do it.
Me too.
It was the opposite last year. It was that Bournemouth game where I was like, yeah, we aren't going to do it. And it's like, you know, you have those defining moments. That was it for me last year.
There was a couple for me. There was so many for me because we kept another one was the Fulham game, 3-0 down at half time, I think it was, and it was just
it was. To be fair, at that point, I'd already accepted we were going down. But for me, it's like I kept having that little bit of hope. But the Bournemouth game was the one where it was that final nail in the coffin, and then it's just like we said it when Dean Smith came in, and I thought he came into an impossible job, really. But like, if he was going to keep us up, it was going to be an absolute miracle, and the damage was already done.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, and it was, and credit to him, credit to Shakespeare. It wasn't enough, but it was, again, they were not. There was so many moments as well that they could have got something. Again, the two draws against Everton and the draw against Leeds. Again, there's so many moments. Again, I'm trying not to go back. Let's take it forward to more positive time. In the lovely land of Leicester City, where we make 5 substitutions and we end the game like this. So you might have spotted a couple of things. Well, obviously Vardy was changed. We'll get onto the goal in just a second. Marco Bryce comes into the team, I think does well. Wilfred Ndidi could have had a hat trick in himself.
It's like, you know, that one at the end where he skied it. Mate, I went with just goes, we've got our old Wilf back. But it's like
we can make the jokes now. We're winning.
Yeah, that's it. If we'd gone on and not won the game, I would have probably hit him if he'd said something like that. But it's the way that he's just sort of bursting through midfield, he should have finished that goal at the end, that chance at the end. But like, he's just been absolutely brilliant, hasn't he? He really, really has.
Shout out to Mike, already in the comments again. Make sure you go and subscribe to the Fellow Foxes podcast as well. We've had him on the post-match to the Preston game. It's fantastic to have him on once again. And again, Wilfred Toure as well. Speaking of Toure, do you know we've got the Yaya Toure's son in our academy?
I only do because you've mentioned this before.
Okay, well, the more you know. Because he's playing as a centre back as well. which I think is I thought was interesting. And surprised not gone with him to wherever Europe,
Didn't he
touring
go
is
to
now.
Wigan and then get sacked?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I knew he got into Wigan. He took a couple of the academy staff, got sacked. Our defense improved. And then he's moved on. But yeah, and coming into this as well, one thing I wanted to mention that I thought was because Cody came on for the last 10 minutes or so, about 85 minutes. He left Vest for what was for me. These are little subtle nuances that I think that are really good about talk about post-match. Connor Cody was pushed out to the right-hand side. I would have thought he would have put Vestergaard through the middle, but I think he genuinely thought Vestergaard's the guy. He was playing, I know I keep going back to him, so many balls, and he's the confidence on the ball just to, okay, here's a pass. And he's putting balls across to people like Harry Winks is. And I genuinely don't mean that as an exaggeration.
I think the thing is, I think Suter probably would have played the full game, but when he came off, he looked when a player just looks like they're absolutely blowing and done. I thought he did brilliantly, but as you say, Vestergaard again. It's like, take this away from football, but just in general life, when a boss puts faith in you, like it. And I know Vestergaard's already about 12'4", but you grow an extra foot, don't you? So, and it gives you that extra sort of like puff in your chest of confidence.
And you start to win headers, which was again, I remember on the game against Cardiff, where I was like, mate, he's won a header, he's won another one, he's won another one, and he's come up levels. And I'm so excited. And the fact is, if this was, for example, the previous manager, where Cody would have come straight back into that, as soon as he's fit, back into the squad, Vestergaard's put out to dry. The fact that he's given Vestergaard the opportunity, and he didn't even substitute him. He substituted him off for Suit again. I think it was great, and you were mentioning did well, and he just couldn't keep up with the intensity. Vestergaard was there and did a bit, but Connor Cody, he's given a right golden problem to give thingy so far, Enzo Maresca. But I think Vestergaard needs to continue to play because of how good he's been at this coming forward. He's one of the players, in my opinion, that's undroppable. And that's unfortunate for Cody. But if we've got 2 games a week, that's where probably you're going to have one then the other.
Yes, it's a good situation to have, isn't it? It's a good problem to have with having the quality in depth instead of thinking, oh God, we don't have anyone to fill in here. We're going to have to put like Ndidi back at centre back or something like that. So it's a brilliant problem to have, and we've still got obviously James Justin who can do a job there as well. So it's like it's all positive at the moment.
Yeah, it really is. And a couple of other players that I think did well. Marco Bryson did some bits as well, and I think again worked. I think he always shouts out again how Marco Bryson. And I think considering he's 5th choice winger, did a good job. Jamie Vardy again gets barely any touches of the ball. But when he does, pretty much everyone, majority of them, look like they're going towards goal or they're going in the back of the net. And that's not something we said a lot last season.
No, and I think something that, like, I don't want to get carried away again, but something to mention about Vardy is he's dropping deep a lot more than he ever has done before and linking up play. But then he's still got that instinct of when to make that run into the box, when to make that run off the shoulder. And I do think this will be his final season, and he looks like he's absolutely relishing every time he scores. And like even the other day when he got subbed off against Blackburn, like bowing towards all 4 corners of Ewood Park, like really winding everyone up. When he scored against Stoke, straight over to that Stoke away end, and it's like he's just absolutely loving life, isn't he?
Yep, and the game before that, Bristol, where he went over again. He said, "You lot stay there. I'm going to go over. Watch this, proper Usher style. Watch this." And he just went over there. Which again, and they just showed them how it's done. Which was again, that's what you got to give it. You got to take it. Just like again that Stoke fan, I think that you are just going around Leicester Twitter at the moment, which I thought was brilliant.
Shall I try do you want me to get the clip up?
You can do if you want to get the. I don't think I have it actually, but overall, I mean, we can't really ask for too much better, eh?
No, it's perfect start, isn't it? Like it really, it's kind of mad that. Do you remember after the whole game, the overreaction from some people? Like 1 game lost, 11-1. It's just absolutely brilliant.
Oh, I've just got it up. It's very choppy,
Hold
but actually, it's not mine. That's it there. That needs to be somebody's screensaver right there.
he just
Just
fully
sit
lost
down.
his head with a kid that's about 6.
Yeah, which I thought was
Brilliant.
absolute. That one was. I watched it, and that's the kind of one I'm going to show other people. Look at this. Oh, really? That was at Leicester. And there are lots of people that don't follow football, and they're like, "Oh, was that at Leicester?" I was like, "Yeah." You can't tell. Oh, they just have no idea. But overall, I think another couple of players I wanted to mention because I could talk about them for a while. Cassidy, thought it was his best game in quite a while. Still think Wilfred and Diddy is better in that position, but I can see he's picking up a lot more, which is great. He's coming back and tracking back and tackling, which is great. Another player I wanted to mention as well. I've been really, really impressed by him. Yunus Akgun. He can play in multiple positions. He can kind of pick a pass out of absolutely nowhere, take a shot and create something out of absolutely nothing, which for me has been super impressive.
Such a tidy, like, technical footballer, isn't he? Really is. And then, like, also saying about players that can sort of create something from nothing, Fatou as well. I'm a huge fan of what we've seen from him. Like,
Yeah.
really positive, head up kind of winger, taking his man on. But then the quality of the balls that he's putting into the box is brilliant. And it's like it's mad that he's only 19. Like, it's ridiculous. We need to pick up those buy options. I was saying this on Lewis's
They're
stream earlier.
mandatory as well. They're mandatory to buy options as well.
If we get promoted, isn't it?
Oh, is it?
Yeah. For certain players, I think certain ones are options, certain are mandatory. But I was saying this on Lewis's stream earlier today. Sadie, and I thought this was his best game that he's played for Leicester. He's the one player that I wouldn't be too upset if we didn't sign permanently, but we've got on loan. And I think that you can see the talent there, but it's like he's doing well. But you know what? You know what? The point I'm trying to make.
I'm with you, and also he is the most replaceable in terms of like, could we get another player? And you've got the links of that might be a position that we want to fill in the summer if we're back in the Premier League because Wilfred and Diddy has been linked very lightly to Barcelona, but he'd be stupid to stay with us if you've got the opportunity to go to Barcelona. Casady will go back. He won't join us on. Lewis thinks he'll join for another year. I don't think so.
I think we go out and get someone permanently.
I think so, and I don't think Casady is. But again, I'm gonna give him time. We've got the opportunity to rotate, but he's looked stronger. But you can see the kind of player that when he first came into the team, we were thinking, right, this is the guy that's going to start every game. And out of all of them, at times Eunice has been taking his place as a number 8. He can play so many different positions. I think Eunice can play all 4 as a midfield. He can play all 4 positions.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, isn't it? It's that word that you said at the start, versatility.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely fun. It's brilliant. But with Casade, it's like you can see the talent, but I'm not at the point now yet where you're going to write him off. Absolutely not. As I say, it was his best game that he's played for Leicester against Stoke. But I want to start seeing a little bit more from him now. And hopefully, as the season goes on, we will do.
I think we will, especially with the games that are coming. We can see the pattern of play. We can see how he fits into the team as well. And I just want to say, shout out to Chess as well. Thanks for the one. I didn't really do it because I was so tired at the same time. But thanks so much for the 199 from the previous one as well. Really appreciate the super chat. So yeah, thanks. Thanks for all your comments that you've put in, and people in general. Thanks for all your comments and your shares as well. But every player in this team is working. Even players like Suter, he's been on the fringes. There's players that we've had the opportunity to rotate and we've used them, but he comes in not worried about an attitude, comes in with a good attitude, comes in puts a performance, works himself to the ground, and is subbed. We're playing we're just all over the pitch. I think we're just playing good football. I've lost my notebook, but so I've put my notebook somewhere else. I'll try and bring it out for your stream. If you didn't know, we're going over to Ants in about 20 minutes or so. But I think we're cruising at the moment, which is because we should be absolutely smashing team. And I think we are, but we can still see we'll get to a point where we could batter a team and like truly, absolutely batter.
I think there's going to be a point this year where we give someone a proper hiding, like real proper, and I cannot wait for that moment. But I think the big thing is, and I've said this for the longest time, as a Leicester fan, I don't ask for a huge amount. I ask for a team that works hard and has pride in the shirt.
Mhm.
But we have that and 10 times more this season.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, I'm with you there. I'm really with you. And it's just been compared to last season, literally the opposite in terms of like there was very little positives and all negatives. Now it's all negatives and very, very little all positives, very, very little negatives. Um, so, and then we've got again just going into the chat as well before we finish up. Hamer's not a bad shout. Actually, I like the idea. But what we'll do is we'll go for a Hamer that you've not heard of from somewhere else in the league, just like we've done with Fatu and Atkin, in my opinion.
What would you say to and people will laugh at this? What would you say to Conor Gallagher? Because he's out of contract, not this year, but next year at Chelsea, and he wants to be playing week in, week out. I know it's one that people turn their noses up at, but
here's my thing. I don't think he's got the final cutting instinct or the technical skill to fit an Enzo system.
No, and he's very Dewsbury Hall-esque of he will like absolutely like run himself into the ground game after game after game. But I get what you need. You can't have two players that sort of, you need that technical ability as well. And I think Dewsbury Hall, like his technical ability is
it's better than Gallagher's.
It's probably, yeah, but it's not a huge amount of difference in it. But I think like when you look at sort of what Enzo wants, there's a reason that so many of our players are sort of good footballers first, athletes second.
Mm-hmm. I get you, and I wouldn't have him. Not because I don't think he's a good player. I just don't think in a certain system I think he'd be great. I just don't think in our system it would work. And because this is the way we play, we have to get the right players for this. And because we've seen players come in and work in that system so well, I don't see any point in trying to fit other people in. I think we've got an opportunity for it, but Gallagher's not that. I think we'll go. Do you know what I mean? I think we'll go for somebody abroad. I don't think we'll get because the homegrown talent's so good and there's so many of them. We'll get somebody from abroad like a Fatal and see what we can do with him.
Or we've already got him at the club in Sammy Braybrook, and we're not going to be having this conversation in the summer because he's going to come in and absolutely smash it.
I don't think he plays in the number 8. He plays as Harry Winks.
Winks role, yeah, potentially, but it'll be interesting to see. But we're talking about a conversation, but we sort of don't even know the details of in the summer because Casady could turn out to be absolutely fantastic for the second half of the season. We go and get him out again on loan, but it's just a long way away.
Also, that's because you're right, and also we've not. You're 100% right. He could go on to another level, but the fact is, another credit I want to give Enzo: the fact that this is a player that very publicly he's come out and said, "This is the guy we need. We need somebody to arrive late into the box to do this, and this," and he does it naturally. Now we've not seen him really do it to his full potential yet, but he's not gone. He needs to be in the team every single week. He's rotated. He's made sure to go. Casady gets some minutes, but Wilfred Ndidi is going to come off the bench. What time is it on the game when he got subbed off? He got subbed off at 77 minutes. So he got a majority, but he still got Wilfred Ndidi still came into the team, still got created more chance than him in the 20 odd minutes he was on. But he's not going to go, okay, that's my player. He needs to play every single game and trying to force him into the squad.
Yeah, 100%. And you see so many managers sort of die on the hill of they've gone out of their way to sign a player. So that
ego
players in the team week in, week out. Look at Mason Mount at Man United. That is like Ten Hag is forcing him into that lineup every single week because of sort of he went out of his way to sign him. There was a point Arteta was doing that with Kai Havertz as well. And I know I'm using bigger examples, but like this is where I think you've got to credit Enzo.
Yeah, no, you're right. And also, he tried to do it with Anthony as well, Ten Hag, with the amount of money that's spent on him. So similar kind of thing there. But The thing is, we'll have a little bit of a recap, I think, later on in the week. But I know we're going to go over to your channel in a few minutes. But any other questions again? But Mike's put his 40 again. He's not forced himself out. He isn't biased to players for the players he wanted. Again, you don't have to have in that ego. That's the thing. They're all having a good time, all having that. Any other final thoughts before we finish up?
No, yeah, a very important thought, actually. Very, very, very important thought. Head over to my channel. We'll be live in 10 minutes.
I was going to say, we're going to go over to Ant's channel. So all of you that are watching, I'll try and get the link up in the meantime as well. Have you got that scheduled, mate?
Yeah, it's scheduled for 9.
That's fine. I'll put it down in the chat for everybody as well. So again, head over there, leave us a comment. We'll try and bring some of them up as well. So I've just linked it down below. Thank you so much for those of you that are, again, that followed us. We're going to bring you some more stuff coming up later in the week. So stay tuned. And also a Swansea preview that's coming on probably in a couple of weeks' time. So like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Click the link. That's the latest one there. And I'll see you in the next one. So goodbye.